the dawn found the desert in an almost supernatural calm. The horizon, tinted with shades of purple and gold, revealed a scene of distant ruins and dunes undulating like waves of a silent sea. I, Lucius, rode slowly, immersed in thoughts and memories, as the morning breeze carried with it the damp scent of earth and a subtle murmur, as if the very environment were whispering forgotten secrets. There, at the border between the starkness of the desert and the shadows of the past, I realized that the journey would not be merely a fight against external enemies, but a deep plunge into the heart of a conspiracy that threatened the very essence of the legacy I was striving to restore. As we followed a stone road partially swallowed by time, the vastness of the desert gradually revealed traces of a hidden civilization. Ruins of temples and abandoned structures emerged among the rocks, their carvings and inscriptions blending with the traces left by the wind. My heart, hardened by battles and betrayals, beat with a mixture of unease and anticipation. Since the clash I experienced with the agents of the Brotherhood of the Veil, suspicions of internal corruption have haunted me. The idea that betrayal could come from within, from our very own, has been gnawing at me. As I rode alongside Rashid, I realized that something new was manifesting in this melancholic landscape. The air felt dense and charged with a mysterious energy, and the sense of being watched was inevitable. It was at that moment that, in a dark nook partially concealed by the shadows of a stone arch, I spotted a small, lit bonfire. As I approached, I noticed that it was surrounded by figures who had, until then, remained anonymous. The flickering light revealed features marked by fatigue and determination on the faces of those gathered there. I felt a mixture of suspicion and curiosity. After all, how many of us, survivors of the Eastern Sect's downfall, might have been corrupted, or, on the contrary, be fighting to preserve the truth? It was at that moment that I realized my journey extended far beyond what I had imagined. It wasn't just about collecting fragments of a legacy, but about uncovering the secrets and hidden allies that could reverse the course of betrayal. I approached slowly, maintaining the natural posture of caution. As I drew near the circle of men and women, a tense silence hung in the air. It was then that a figure, tall and with a penetrating gaze, stood out from the rest. His eyes, intense and curious, locked onto mine, and he rose with a posture that blended authority and serenity. "I am Kalen," he said in a firm, measured voice. "And you, Varian, carry within you the burden of a legacy that many have refused to preserve." I maintained my stance, but inside, a spark of recognition ignited. Kalen was not just another survivor. He exuded the aura of someone who knew the mysteries surrounding the fall of the sect and the scattered fragments. As Kalen spoke, the others in the circle settled into silence, as if awaiting each word with an almost reverent expectation. "There is a group that calls themselves the Hidden Brotherhood," Kalen continued.
Quick tip to level up your experience. Read Manhwas and light novels for free. Listen to epic audiobooks. Watch unlimited anime. Play cloud games with no console. And stream the best anime soundtracks. Check the description now and grab your free trials.
And we fight not only against the invaders, but against the corruption that threatens to erase the memory of those who have fallen. Each one of us carries a story, a sacrifice, and together we form a network of resistance that works in the shadows to keep the flame of the true East alive. My hands tightened around the hilt of my blade, not so much out of suspicion, but because of the intensity of the emotions his words stirred within me. I had always been an anti-hero, marked by pain and the scars of past betrayals, but at that very moment, a faint hope began to take root. Perhaps, among those who shared the same burden, I could find the strength needed to face both internal and external enemies. Kalen led me to an improvised shelter made of debris and vegetation that, miraculously, had survived the ravages of time. There, the atmosphere transformed. The stone walls displayed symbols and inscriptions that told stories of ancient rituals, and the scent of incense and burnt herbs mingled with the damp air. I found myself surrounded by people whose gazes reflected both sadness and determination. Among them, a young woman with silver hair and deep blue eyes stood out. She introduced herself as Lyris and, in a gentle yet determined voice, said, "The truth we seek cannot be found in the ruins of the past, but rather in the hearts of those who refuse to forget." Her presence was both enigmatic and comforting. As I listened to her words, I felt an instant connection, as if her determination were a reflection of my own. 4 hours, Kalen, Lyris, and the others shared accounts of experiences, betrayals, and battles that had shaped them. In each conversation, nuances of a dark past emerged, but so did hints of a possible future, a future where the truth could finally shine despite the shadows. With every account, my doubts deepened, but so too grew my conviction that the hidden brotherhood represented something greater than mere survivors. We were the last resistance against a corrupted truth. I found myself torn between my cynical nature, forged by years of disillusionment, and the urgent need to trust someone who, like me, refused to be subdued by despair. We were betrayed by those who promised to protect our legacy, Kalen confided, his eyes locked onto mine. And now we need to join forces to ensure that the same mistakes are never repeated. As I listened to his words, a whirlwind of emotions overwhelmed me. I knew that trust was a risk that, for me, always meant vulnerability. Yet, in that very moment, the prospect of fighting side by side with souls who understood my pain seemed to offer an escape from the endless cycle of betrayal. Tension reached its peak when, suddenly, alarming news cut through the silence. One of the Brotherhood's messengers, his face pale and eyes brimming with tears, announced that enemy forces were approaching. We weren't sure whether they were spies from the Empire or infiltrated traitors, but fear spread like wildfire. "We must prepare for the worst," exclaimed Kalen, as the Brotherhood members hurried to reinforce the shelter's defenses. I felt my heart race. Although my mind was accustomed to facing challenges, the thought of being betrayed once again by those in whom I might have placed my hope made me shudder. The atmosphere, already laden with uncertainty, transformed into a whirlwind of action and strategy. Lyris approached me, her blue eyes reflecting both determination and anguish. "Varian, now is the time to show that your pain is not a burden, but a strength. Trust in what you've learned and in those who stand by your side." His words reverberated within me, blending the momentum of battle with the urgency to protect everything we had fought to preserve. When the enemies finally broke through the outer barriers of the shelter, the ensuing fight was chaotic and intense. I fought with a restrained fury, each strike of my blade echoing like a cry against the betrayals of the past. My movements were precise, the result of years of training and the bitter experience of betrayal. Kalen and Lyris fought side by side, their voices interweaving in a silent dialogue of strategy and courage. At the climax of the battle, as the chaos reached its peak and the clash of metal merged with the roar of the enemies, I confronted the leader of a group of infiltrators. His eyes, as cold as my worst nightmares, challenged me without uttering a word. In a moment charged with emotion and adrenaline, my blade delivered a decisive strike, slicing not only through flesh but also through the shackles of the past that threatened to keep me imprisoned by distrust. When the dust of battle began to settle, I realized that although we had repelled the assault, something fundamental had changed within me. I was no longer the solitary, bitter man who doubted every shadow. The union with the Brotherhood members, even if temporary, ignited a flame that defied the darkness, a glimpse of redemption achieved through trust. After the confrontation, the shelter calmed, and under the dim twilight, I gathered with Kalen, Lyris, and Darius to assess the damage and losses. I sat down, exhausted and wounded, yet with renewed clarity. The battle had proven that true betrayal did not lie solely in the hands of our enemies, but also in the internal fears that eroded our ability to trust. Today, we saw that the Brotherhood is not just a group of survivors, but a network of souls who refuse to forget, said Kalen, his voice laden with a mixture of sorrow and hope. I nodded slowly, understanding that to move forward, I would need to make room for vulnerability and allow these new allies to breach the fortress of my defenses. Lyris approached and, gently, placed her hand on my shoulder. "The journey is long, Varian, but every battle we fight together strengthens not only our cause but also our very essence." As I absorbed those words, I felt an internal transformation. The pain I carried, once an unbearable burden, began to transmute into a source of power, a testament that even after countless betrayals, hope could be reborn from the depths of despair. At dusk, when the sky filled with stars that seemed to witness our struggle, I gathered with the Brotherhood members around a modest bonfire. The flames danced, casting shadows that intertwined with faces etched by battle and hope. Amid low conversations and whispered promises, I felt that, at last, I was beginning to understand the true meaning of the legacy I sought to restore. "Today, I learned that trust is the most difficult weapon to wield," I murmured to myself, as I observed the sincere gazes of my new allies. Kalen, with a restrained smile, continued, "The path is uncertain, Varian, but the truth always finds a way to reveal itself." And so, with a heavy heart yet the determination of a man who had faced darkness and emerged stronger, I continued my journey. The Hidden Brotherhood, with its stories, secrets, and inner struggles, promised to be not just an ally, but a crucial piece in the puzzle of Eastern redemption. As the night deepened and the murmurs of the wind promised new challenges, I knew that every step forward would be an even deeper plunge into the truth. A truth that, as painful as it might be, held the power to transform betrayal into an indomitable force. With my eyes fixed on the horizon and confidence slowly emerging from the scars of my past, I stood up, ready to face the next mysteries that fate had in store. My journey, filled with pain and discoveries, had only just begun, and although the shadows of deceit still lurked, I was determined to use them as the foundation upon which to build a new dawn, a dawn where the true legacy of the East could finally shine.
Did you enjoy the video? Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. This helps us know which stories you love most and which ones we should prioritize in future productions. Your support is essential for us to keep bringing you the best manhwa content every day. See you in the next episode.